Hey, what's up, everybody? Mr. Diaz is back. We're doing another read aloud together, as always. So today we will be doing the reading of chapters 8 and 9, and as always, there is an assignment associated to it. So before I do the reading, and then after I do the reading, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that assignment and what your expectations are um, as far as that's concerned. So let's go ahead and start by me sharing my screen with everybody. Alrighty, so there's my screen sharing. Let me pull up chapters 8 and 9. There they are, ready to go. Cool. All right, so always start off by writing the title of the book. The title is Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. It's the same title as it's been the whole time. I'll kind of leave it up to the screen really quickly, make sure I can see it. There you go. Pause the video if you need to. The author is Chris Grabenstein. Copy that down. Pause the video if you need to. Alrighty, you're gonna start with a prediction, and again, the idea is that and I'm gonna go over this in person, of course, but the idea is that you're thinking about what you're reading before you're reading, and that helps you kind of to get into the right mindset. So while I'm reading to you, you should be the entire time, you should be thinking about what I am reading. And one of the things that you can do before you even start is make a prediction. So what I want you all to do is write down, based on the first 7 chapters of the story, what you think is going to happen in chapters 8 and 9. So again, you're basing it off of stuff that has happened. So the more specific, in other words, like names of characters, names of places that people have gone to in the story, all of these things, anything specific, any specific information that you use will help will help bolster your prediction and make it a strong one. The more specific details you use in your prediction, the better. Then after you make that prediction, you say, I predict that, okay? Or my prediction is, see, I'm writing it down here on the screen if you look at the text box. My prediction is, and you write what you think is going to happen. After you write that, then you need to explain why you predicted what you predict. In other words, what's your reason for this? Why do you think this? Well, a lot of it is just going to be based off things you've already read. Well, I already read in chapter 3, or I already read earlier in the book that, and you tell me what you read, and that's what you base it off of. So again, you say something like, if you look at the text box down here, the reason I predicted this is, and you tell me what you're basing it off of. And if you're not basing it off of anything, then you need to go back and think about what it is I'm saying I'm predicting and try to make it based off of something that has happened in the story, okay? All right. Pause the video, go back, and write down your prediction. All right, we're ready to go. While I'm reading, of course, make sure that you're paying attention to the story. And one way you can prove to me you're paying attention is by asking questions. The questions you ask can be about the story itself, like what's going to happen next, why did some character do this, anything that's confusing to you, you can ask. But you can also ask comprehension questions, like questions that I would ask you. You can write for other people here. So if you have no questions yourself, nothing you're wondering about, nothing you need answered, and again, if that's the case, you're probably not paying attention to the story very carefully. But maybe you are and you just have no questions, then go ahead and write comprehension questions, right? Questions that quiz other people about what has happened. So when Kyle went here, what did he do? Something like that. Anything that quizzes your friend or a classmate about what has happened. So that's while you're reading. Lastly, I just want to point out this last section. We will go over this at the end as well, but basically, instead of having you summarize, what I'm doing is asking you some comprehension questions. So I'm asking you kind of the questions I just talked about above. I'm going to be asking you a set of those. In those questions, just remember to always start your sentence with a capital letter and end it with some sort of punctuation. And then lastly, make sure you restate the question and the answer. What does that mean? It means you say what the question is when you write the answer. You don't just write the answer. So for example, the question was, what will the 12 winners of the essay contest receive? You can restate the question by saying in your answer the question. So in other words, the question is, what will the 12 winners receive? The 12 winners of the essay contest receive. So I tell you what they receive. And I do that by not just saying what they receive, but I tell you, I restate the question. I tell you what the question is in my answer. And we will go over this more and more and more in case you're not quite getting it. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and start reading. We're going to read chapters 8 and 9. Chapter 8. Over on the side of the stage, a shoe that looked like a peeled open banana appeared from behind a curtain. When it landed, the shoe burp squeaked. As a second banana shoe burp squeaked on the floor, Kyle looked up and there he was, Mr. Lemoncello. He had loose and floppy limbs and was dressed in a three-piece black suit with a bright red tie. His black broad-brimmed hat was cocked at a crooked angle atop his curly white hair. Kyle was so close, he could see a sly twinkle sparkling in Mr. Lemoncello's coal black eyes. Treading very carefully, Mr. Lemoncello walked toward the podium. The burp squeaks in his shoes seemed to change pitch depending on how hard he landed on his heels. He added a couple of little jig steps, a quick hop, and a stutter step skip, and yes, his shoes were squeaking out a song. Pop goes the weasel. On the pop, Mr. Lemoncello popped behind the podium. The crowd went wild. Mr. Lemoncello politely bowed and said very softly, "Thank you, thank you, grazie, grazie." He went forward so his mouth was maybe an inch away from the microphone. Buongiorno, poise and groze. He spoke very timidly, very slowly. Teasies how mia mama and mia papa teach me to speak de English. He wiggled his ears, straightened his back. But then, he said in a crisp, clear voice, I went to Alexandriaville Public Library, where a wonderful librarian named Mrs. Gail Tobin helped me learn how to speak like this. If two witches were wearing two watches, which witch would watch which watch? I can also speak while upside down and underwater, but not today because I just had the suit dry cleaned and do not want to get it wet. Mr. Lemoncello bounced across the stage like a happy grasshopper. Now then, children, if I may call you that, which I must because I have not memorized all of your names, even though I am working on it. What do you think is the most amazingly incredible thing you'll find inside your wondrous new library? Besides, of course, all the knowledge you'll need to do anything and everything you ever want to do? No one said anything. They were too mesmerized by Mr. Lemoncello's rat-a-tat words. Would it be A, robots silently whizzing their way through the library, restocking the shelves? B, the electronic learning center with 3 dozen plasma screen TVs, all connected to flight simulators and educational video games? Or C, the Wonder Dome, lined with 10 giant video screens? It can make the whole building feel like a rocket ship blasting off into outer space. The game room! Someone shouted. The robots! The video dome! Mr. Lemoncello raced back to the podium and made a buzzing noise into the microphone. Sorry, the correct answer is, and not just because of Winn-Dixie, D, all of the above. The crowd went wild. Mr. Lemoncello whirled around to face his head librarian. Dr. Zinchenko, will you kindly help me pass out our first 12 library cards? It was time to announce the essay contest winners. Dr. Zinchenko placed a stack of 12 shiny cards on the podium in front of Mr. Lemoncello. Please, he said, as I call your name, come join me on stage. Miguel Fernandez? Yes! Miguel jumped out of his seat. Akimi Hughes? Woohoo! Kyle was thrilled to see his two friends be the first ones called on stage. Andrew Peckelman, Bridget Wadge, Sierra Russell, Yasmin Smith-Snyder. Yasmin squealed when her name was called. Sean Keegan, Haley Daly, Rose Vermette, and Kayla Corson. 10 kids, all the same age as Kyle, were up on stage with his idol, Mr. Lemoncello. He was not. Only 2 more chances. As if reading his mind, Mr. Lemoncello said, only 2 more, and tapped a pair of library cards on the podium. Charles Chiltington? Gosh, really? He dashed up to the podium and started pumping Mr. Lemoncello's hand. Thank you, sir. This is such an honor. Truly, I mean it. Thank you, Charles. May I have my hand back? I needed to flip over this final card. Of course, sir. But I cannot wait to spend the night in your library, or as I call it, your Athenaeum. Because, as I said in my essay, when you open a book, you open your mind. Finally, Charles, the brown noser, let go of Mr. Lemoncello's hand and went over to line up with the other winners. And last but not least, said Mr. Lemoncello, Kyle Keeley. Kyle could not believe his ears. He thought he was dreaming. But then Akimi started waving for him to come on up. Dazed, Kyle made his way up the steps to join the others on stage. Mr. Lemoncello handed Kyle a library card. His name and the number 12 were printed on the front. 2 book covers, I Love You, Stinky Face, and The Napping House were on the back. Let's all pose for a picture, please, said the principal. When everybody moved into position for the photographer, Kyle found himself standing right next to Mr. Lemoncello. He swallowed hard. I'm a big fan, sir, he said, his voice kind of shaky. Why, thank you. And remind me, you are? I'm Kyle, sir. Kyle Keeley. Ah, yes, the boy who proved what I've always known to be true. The game is never over till it's over. Bong. Chapter 9. Kyle couldn't wait to tell his family the good news. I won the essay contest, he showed him his shiny new library card. Congratulations, said his mom. Way to go, said his dad. His brothers, Curtis and Mike, were more interested in Kyle's other card, his $500 Lemoncello gift card. It's good for 12 months, said Kyle. But you need to use it now, said Mike. We need to go to the store tonight so you can buy me Mr. Lemoncello's kooky wacky hockey. I can't. Why not? I have to show my library card at the store to cash it in. And I'm grounded, remember? You know, Kyle, said his dad, looking at his mother, who nodded. Since you worked extra hard and did such a bang-up job on your essay, I think we might consider suspending your punishment. Really? Really. Kyle's mom and dad smiled at him, the way they smiled whenever Mike won a football game or Curtis won the science fair. After supper, all 5 Keeleys piled into the family van and headed off to the local toy store. Lemoncello's hockey game is awesome, said Mike as they drove to the store, especially when the Penguins play the polar bears. I'm hoping to find a classic board game, mused Curtis, Mr. Lemoncello's bewildering, baffling bibliomania. Is that about the Bible? Asked her dad from behind the wheel. Not exactly, said Curtis, although the Bible, especially a rare Gutenberg edition, may be one of the treasures you must find and collect, because the object of the game is to collect rare and valuable books, but the Penguins and kooky wacky hockey aren't from Pittsburgh like in the NHL, said Mike, cutting off Curtis. They're from Antarctica, and the polar bears, they're from Alaska. Kyle had decided to divvy up his gift card 5 ways to give everybody, including his mom and dad, $100 to play with. As soon as they entered the toy store, the family split up, cruising the aisles with their own shopping carts. His mom was going to upgrade to Mr. Lemoncello's Restaurant Rush. His dad was looking for one of Mr. Lemoncello's complicated what-if historical games. What if the Romans had won the American Civil War? Kyle hung with Curtis and Mike for a while. Being the one with the gift card made him feel like he was suddenly their big brother. Mike quickly found his PlayStation hockey game, and Curtis was in geek heaven when he finally found Bibliomania. They only have one left, he gushed, tearing off the cellophane shrink wrap and prying open the lid. He sat down right in the middle of the store and unfolded the game board on his lap. You see, you start on the rotunda in this circular reading room. Then you go upstairs and enter each of these 10 chambers where you have to answer a question about a book. I think I hear Mom calling, said Kyle. She must need the gift card. Enjoy. And Kyle took off. The store will close in 15 minutes, announced a voice from the ceiling speakers. Kyle flew up and down the aisle and grabbed a couple of board games he didn't own yet, including Mr. Lemoncello's absolutely incredible Iron Horse, a game where you build your own transcontinental railroad, complete with locomotive game pieces that actually puff steam. As Kyle was doing some quick math to see if he'd spent his $100, Charles Chiltington rolled up the aisle with a cart crammed full with $500 worth of loot. Games stacked on top of games were practically spilling over the sides. Mr. Lemoncello's phenomenal picture word puzzler and one of Kyle's favorite was teetering on the top. Hello, Keely, said Chiltington with a smirk. He looked down at the 3 games just sitting in the bottom of Kyle's shopping cart. Just getting started. No, I shared my gift card with my family. Really? Well, that was a mistake, wasn't it? Kyle was about to answer when Chiltington said, So long. See you on Friday. Kyle wasn't 100% sure, but Charles might have also muttered, Loser. Since the store was about to close, Kyle headed toward the checkout lanes. When he passed the customer service department, he saw Haley Daly. No, Kyle heard Haley say in a hushed tone to the clerk working the returns window. I do not want to return these items for store credit. I prefer cash. Kyle finally found his family, showed the cashier his library card, and paid for everything with a single swipe of his gift card. You know, Kyle, said his dad as the family walked across the parking lot. Your mother and I are extremely proud of you. Writing a good essay isn't easy. Maybe you'll be an author someday, added his mom. Then you could write books that'll be on the shelves of the new library. Thanks, little brother, said Curtis, practically hugging his bibliomania box. Yeah, said Mike, this was awesome. Way to win one for the team. Best family game night ever, joked their dad. Kyle was enjoying his rare moment of glory, playing Santa Claus for his whole family. As the week dragged on, Friday night in the library lock-in started to remind Kyle of Christmas, too. It felt like they would never come. Then, finally, they did. All right, you guys. So again, you have 10 questions. It might be a good thing to read these questions over, answer the ones you can, and then re-listen to it if you can't. One thing that I really want to emphasize is that most people cannot answer all of these questions just from listening to it one time. That's a very challenging thing. It's very important that you get into the habit of rereading, and in this case, re-listening to what I have already said. Again, as a reminder, please start your sentences with a capital letter. Please end it with some sort of punctuation. Normally a period, could be a question mark if it's a question, could be an exclamation mark if you're trying to emphasize something or say something loudly. And then lastly, restate the question in the answer. In other words, restate the question in your answer. So if the question is what will the 12 winners of the essay contest receive? Your answer will be something like the 12 winners of the essay contest will receive. And this one, you're just going to describe Mr. Lemoncello. So Mr. Lemoncello is like this, and so on and so forth. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. As always, you guys are awesome, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have an easy time with this assignment. Take care, everybody.